everyone. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. If this is your second time, since this is the second episode of this podcast thing that I'm doing, welcome back. Today I wanted to talk about college in general and university, whatever it is that you're going to be going to. If you are going to college within the next year, or maybe this upcoming fall, which is fast approaching, some people might have actually already started college. Maybe not. Maybe soon. I think some people start at the end of August. We're not quite there yet. Or the beginning of September. Whatever's going on. Good luck to you if that's what you're doing, and I'm going to share my college experience as much as I can remember. It's been a while, so I do kind of have foggy memories or like selected memories that have like stuck with me or whatever. I guess we could just start from the beginning. I started college in 2013, the end of August, just kind of like coming up here soon. And I went to a local college, no, kind of local. It was about 3 hours away, but local as in like the same state that I live in. And it was a relatively expensive private college that had its own dorm, but it was like down the street a little ways. And it was in a city. I stayed in the dorms all 4 years that I attended, and my first year I had a roommate, and that fell through because we didn't get along. I could tell you the story. It's not really anything too horrifically scandalous or anything. Maybe a little scandalous. I don't know. And almost everyone on my floor, which is like the first people that you get to know and, you know, hang out with when you're a freshman, all smoked and I didn't. So everyone would like go around to each other's rooms and be like, hey, we're going on a smoke break. Do you want to go? And like everyone would leave all at once from the floor, and I'd just be like sitting there like, I don't smoke. Whoops. Like, I don't know. So that was kind of uncomfortable for like the first week or so, because I did make friends pretty soon after like classes actually started, and I started, you know, spending time in the college, not just in the dorms and stuff. So it wasn't like I was the loner kid who doesn't smoke forever, but it was a little bit uncomfortable. To get more into the experience that I had in college, I understand that everyone's college is going to be pretty drastically different from my own in how they teach art, you know, how they go about things. Our college really focused on fine art as like, it wasn't like a trade school. So when I went and I was, I was expecting my college to be an experience that taught me how to make art better. And I learned while I was already there, while I was already in it, you know, you can't really back down now kind of thing, that wasn't the case. In some ways it was, like we did have like drawing 101, and that was, I would say, you know, you're being taught how to do something. You're being taught how to draw better. And that was wonderful. That was like what I wanted. I wanted to better my skill, most importantly at the time, because like my thought process was, I'm not going to get hired and I'm not going to be making art for money if I'm not good, or if I don't think that I'm proficient enough. So the drawing classes were good, and there were other classes where you learned how to use materials and things like that as well. I'm not going to say that there wasn't. But once I got into my major, which was illustration, that kind of stopped happening. Unless I had continued to take drawing courses on my own, which I did take a lot of drawing courses. I could have gotten a drawing minor, but I didn't, because I think I had to take or did take other things that weren't drawing. And you pretty much had to take drawing like every semester to get that major. But anyway, but once you're in the illustration department, they kind of stopped teaching us like how to do things, and that became your responsibility to learn new skills and better your craft and do the research. And it was more a focus on giving assignments, having us complete those assignments, and then critiquing those assignments. And that was pretty much what the last 2 years or so of my college experience was. The first 2 were a lot of learning how to do things, learning about art theories, art history, doing all that kind of stuff. Even some classes that were similar to high school type classes. We had an English. We had a couple different English classes we had to take. We had a creative writing class, which was fine. I didn't mind that because at least it was creative, We also had a math and a science, and I had to take a marine science class. Again, they were okay. The illustration department really focused on assignments, and I don't really know how other colleges do it because I didn't attend another college. I attended the one, and that was what my experience was. But it was kind of frustrating in a way because they wanted you to work on your own body of work. And I felt like all the other departments were able to work on their own bodies of work. Painters were working on a collection of paintings, and sculptors were working on a series of sculptures, and metal workers were working on a line of jewelry, or, whatever they were doing. Every department kind of was more like a fine art, which I understand that illustration, graphic design, new media aren't really considered fine art by some people. And I guess I just wanted to be an illustrative fine artist, if that makes sense. And that right there is something that doesn't really fit in to the mold of at least the college that I attended. I remember my first day of illustration class, I had a teacher who I continuously disagreed with, had struggles with, and the first thing that they said to us, when we got done with handing out the curriculums and shit like that, was that there is fine art and then there is illustration. And I didn't understand what they meant at the time. I thought that they were calling illustration not art. And I was kind of offended, I guess, at the time. I didn't fully understand what they meant because I didn't fully understand what fine art meant. And I didn't fully understand what illustration meant. When I attended the college, when I made the decision to not only go to this college, but also to pursue a career in an illustration field, or not a career, but a diploma, that's what I wanted my major to be, was illustration, was based on art that I had seen by others, people who were alums at the time. I saw their work and I thought that looks the most like what I want to make. And everyone who was making work that was similar to the work that I admired were illustrators. So I went into the illustration department as soon as I could, which for our college was your 3rd and 4th year, was when you really were settled into your department. Your first 2 years, like I said before, was just a lot of learning a little bit of everything. That's just how the school teaches art, is that you get a little bit of a fully rounded education and a little bit of everything first, and then you get to go into your major and really announce what your major is and go into that department. And I was in illustration, which apparently wasn't fine art. It was art. That wasn't what she meant when she said that illustration wasn't fine art, but it was the beginning of a mood for me that lasted the entire 2 years that I attended. This not fully understanding what illustration was and not fully understanding what fine art was. And when I started to realize that they were different, I was very upset. And I had a couple people who were going through the same kind of realizations with me, who wanted to create illustrative fine art, I would say. And the illustration department treated illustration very editorially. It was, you're going to be hired by people, companies, authors, publishers, editorials, newspapers, companies that sell product, to basically make artwork for them. And you're going to get paid to please other people. And that's your lot in life now that you've chosen illustration as your path. You're going to be hired, and you'll have to do everything that the people ask you to do. And if you need to change something, you'll have to change it. And people are going to be rude to you, and people are going to be mean. This is the narrative that was being fed to us, the whole department at once, about what your career is going to be. This is what you've chosen. You're in this department. This is what we're going to teach you, and this is what your life's going to be from here on out. And very, very early on and very quickly, I fucking hated that. I hated everything about it. I don't like making artwork for other people. I don't like being told what to do. I don't like clients. This and that. That was my attitude at the time. Did it change? Yes, my attitude did change. But as a junior going into the illustration department at the time, really, really wanting to work on my own projects, really wanting to write, really wanting to make comics, really wanting to design my own characters and create worlds and do all that kind of stuff. What I thought my senior thesis was going to be was this elaborate world build project where I designed plants and animals and cities and characters and like this whole, world for people to experience. And I wanted it to be set up kind of like a nature exhibit in a museum. But like all of these, otherworldly creatures or like fantasy creatures and stuff. That was my goal, freshman year when I came in. And I already knew that we were going to have to do a senior thesis project for the senior thesis show at the end of the year. That was my goal. That was what I wanted to do. I soon realized that that was not going to happen because I'm being given assignments by professors every week or every couple weeks that may or may not have anything to do with something I'm genuinely interested in, because they were emulating, this is what it's going to be like when a client comes to you and they want you to design a toothbrush commercial, or they want you to make a sign for their shop, or they want you to create an illustration to go along with this article about bears or whatever. You know what I mean? That was what illustration was in that department at that time, in that college. And that was all we had time for, because we were assigned, we had multiple classes of different illustration related things. I had a character design class, which I thought, again, was going to be a little bit more freeing. It really wasn't. I didn't really get to create characters that I would create from my own mind, if I had the freedom to do so. It was kind of more, you're being told, again, to design a specific type of character for a specific type of project. We had a comic book class, which I thought, again, was going to be great, like an opportunity for me to, make a story and make characters and stuff that were my own. But by the time I got a chance to do that, I was so creatively tired and stunted and frustrated that I didn't really create anything I was super happy with. So that was kind of a shamble. And then, we had illustration 1, illustration 2, illustration 3, and they were all the classes that were giving us these assignments that were very clientele based. And I was always busy with those. And as you can imagine, by the time it got to be senior thesis time, there was no way I was going to have time to world build a project basically from scratch at that point and have it be anything worthwhile. So I had to not do that idea. And this is like right kind of down to the wire. Like I really still wanted to do this up until the end of my senior year. I wanted to do this world building project and have it be like a nature exhibit and blah, blah, blah. Didn't get to do it because I was always doing assignments for other people. Well, for myself, but, under the guise of being client work. That my passion project didn't happen. And my senior thesis was basically a big collage on the wall of the illustrations I did for different projects. And it was basically a portfolio on the wall. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not shit-talking people who do that for a living. People who are illustrators for clients who, make those editorial illustrations or who illustrate children's books or all that. If that's something that you like to do, that's a great career. That's something to learn in a college like this. If that was something that you wanted to do for a living, then this is a great college setup. This is a great way of teaching that. But I, at the time, and I still today, I would say, didn't want to do that. I felt like I had my time wasted so many times for so many reasons. It was my own fault. It was my own shitty attitude. And like I said before, my attitude did change and has changed today from I don't want to make art for other people. I don't want to have clients. I want to make art for myself. I still feel that way, but at the same time, about around the end of my senior year, I finally had like another conversation with that professor that I had my first year as an illustration department student. When, I can't remember when, but I just said to her after class, I realized that I would rather be miserable doing a job that required me to draw and create art than I would be miserable in a job that I was cleaning floors or, cooking or serving or something like that. And I kind of agree with myself in that way. Now that I've been out of college for a while and have started having clients and doing commissions, and it's been a good experience. And it is a way to make money. You're not going to make money just doing passion projects all the time and never bringing them to fruition and, all that. You do have to supplement your time with something like commissions or adoptables or whatever it is you're comfortable doing. Or even if it is uncomfortable, step out of your comfort zone. That's a way to make money. Doing client work is a way to make money. And I kind of realized that by the end of it, but I still felt like I had been robbed of my time. And that was something that I feared leaving college and going into the real world, was that I was going to be doing client work all the time, and I would never have time for telling stories, creating my own characters, being a creatively minded person. And I was worried that that was going to be my life. So when people ask me about my college experience, I have a hard time saying that it was bad, and I have a hard time saying that it was good. I spent a lot of time very frustrated with the art community, with illustration as a concept, and with myself for being so unbelievably stubborn and thinking that I knew what I wanted to do coming into college and not having a more open mind. I wish that I had had a more open mind. I wish that I had been more willing to go with the flow, but at the same time, I'm somebody who kind of knows what they want, and I don't think I would have gone about it differently even if I was going into it with a little bit more of an open book mentality, because I knew when I still wouldn't have been happy. I still would have bucked against the system, argued with professors, cried in my studio. It was a mess. I just wanted to create my own stuff for myself. I just wanted to be a fine artist. I just wanted to make images that I wanted to make. And I realized that I chose the department that didn't allow me to do that. But at the same time, I knew deep down no other department would have been better for me either. I'm an illustrator whether I like it or not. Whether the college agrees or not, I am. I make illustrative art. I'm an illustrator. I make images that go along with a story. That's what an illustrator is. I'm not an image-making machine, and I need to be creatively inspired to make good art. If I'm not inspired, I make bad art. And I hate showing it to people, and I hate having to give it to somebody. I hate having to give what I would consider bad art to a paying client. And I've had to do it many times because something about what they asked for just didn't spark any type of fire. The times that a client tells me to do something that when I start doing it, I really jive with it, they get my best product. But at the same time, I can't spend 2 weeks on one client that I'm struggling with more and like 3 days on another client that I just did their work. It was really seamless. I got it done real fast. I'm kind of going on a tangent, but one more thing I wanted to talk about that happened when I was in college. This is again freshman year. We had a class where we had to, it was basically a class where we learned Photoshop, like how to use it, like the basics of it. The professor for this class, I found out later, was like an art historian type person, or that was like her forte, was art history. And it made a lot more sense once I knew that, what she asked us to do, but at the time I was very taken aback. She assigned us, I think it was our first assignment ever, to bring in 3 artists, their names, a little bit about them, and their work, some samples of their work, to like the next class. And we would go through everyone and talk about these artists and kind of get to know you in that way. I think it's a good idea to start a class out that way so that you kind of have a basis idea of, okay, what is this person's inspirations? Who does this person look up to? And like maybe better understand like where their art is coming from through that. At the time, all of the artists that I looked up to were on the internet, and they were not much older than me. And that was the art that I wanted to make. It was like, man, at my peak, I will be making art like these people. And so I brought in 3 examples of people from DeviantArt and, other sites and stuff like that, because I don't think Tumblr was a thing, but I wasn't on it, I think, at the time, or it was just very fledgling, like early years of Tumblr at the time. And so I brought in these 3 artists that were basically nobodies, but like who I genuinely like looked up to, really adored their work, thought that that's like the best artwork that I could possibly make in the future would be art similar to theirs. And this professor was like, She didn't come out and say, like, that these people didn't count. She very strongly alluded to it. She was, like, trying to find famous artists who were similar to these internet artists and was trying to, like, replace the art that I really did like with similar art that you'd find in a museum or in a book or, you know, more renowned artists from, like, the fine art sphere. And, you know, they weren't similar to me. They were, you know, these painters, and, you know, it wasn't bad art. I'm not going to say that she didn't try to, like, replace my favorite artists with, you know, worse artists or anything like that, but it was different. It was comparing apples to oranges. You can't like compare people you find online, like 20-something-year-olds who just sit down at their computer and make whatever they want and post it online, with people who are in galleries and, you know, everyone knows their name and shit like that. Like, I wasn't, and I still am not, as interested in famous or renowned artists as I am with just a nobody who lives in the Midwest or wherever, who's just drawing what they're passionate about. I'll never be as interested in, like, a gallery show type artist as I will be just an average Joe's artist. That's just something that I'm more interested in. I'm more interested in normal, you know, average, everyday people's somewhat shitty art. I just really like it. So she tried to replace my artists, and it really fucking pissed me off and really offended me. And it was like the first time I got into an argument with a professor. It was like week 2 or 3, I don't even know. And I argued with her on it, and I always argued with my professors. I never let them tell me what to think. And I'm so glad that I did, but I'm so embarrassed that I did looking back. I really wish that I had been a little bit less argumentative, and I don't even know where the courage came, because I'm a shy person and I'm pretty introverted. But I always stood up for my beliefs when a professor did something that I thought was offensive or something that I thought wasn't right. I let them know. And I did tell this professor that I just don't like those other artists as much, and, like, everyone can laugh at the artists that I brought, and everyone can think that they're childish or not artists or whatever, but I really don't like the artists that you're suggesting to, like, replace the artists that I brought in that I've been looking up to. I really fucking hated that. And that kind of mentality that professor had was fairly pervasive throughout the rest of the 4 years that I was there. Name dropping was such a huge thing at my college. Like, if you knew, like, all of these famous artists or whatever, and you could drop their name during a critique or whatever, yeah, you were, like, hot shit. And I always didn't fucking care. Like, even if I didn't know who the artist was that they were talking about, and I, like, went and looked their stuff up, I almost was never as impressed as I would be with the people who I already surrounded myself with, artist-wise. I just always didn't fucking care. I didn't care too much about art history. That's an unpopular opinion. I appreciated the artwork and the artist's abilities. They're masters of art. But it's shit we've seen. They've done it. It's been done. Not that all art at this point hasn't kind of been done, but some of it is just, it's been done. It's in the past. It's not something that I want in my life. It's not something I'd hang on my wall. It's not something I would store in a folder in my computer and admire when I'm sad. It just exists and is just a thing. You know what I mean? Art history, there's certain sections of art history that I pull more inspiration from than others. Really love Renaissance paintings, really love classical painting stuff, really love Rococo. The lighting is amazing. The subject matter is always beautiful. I love beautiful art. I always have. I'm not saying that art has to be beautiful to be art, but to me, if I'm gonna admire an art, it has to be aesthetically pleasing. That's just the way I am. I got into an argument with a girl during a critique at one point. Not really an argument, but she questioned me, and then it was kind of weird, and then I was like, what? But she basically asked me why I draw attractive people. If you know my work, you know that I just draw cute or attractive or pretty or handsome characters as just default. It's what I want to do. It's not that deep. But she asked me, why do you always draw attractive characters? Like, why do you always draw pretty people? And I literally didn't know how to answer her. Because to me, if you're drawing ugly characters, a lot of the times you're doing that for like a reason. Or it's more like, oh, I do like raw, real art, or I draw like raw, real people and stuff like that. And there's nothing wrong with that. And that's also art and also appreciated. But it's not my forte. I make art to be aesthetically pleasing because that's what I want to look at as well, you know. I'm not an attractive person, but I would like to look at attractive things. The real world is already, you know, full of flaws and full of, you know, ugliness. I just like to idealize a little bit and create a fantasy that is pretty to look at. That's even getting more deep about it than I'm comfortable getting deep about it, because it really ain't that deep. It's just how I draw. It's just how I draw characters. They're not ugly or pretty to me. They're just a person. So she kind of was like trying to get like this deep reason out of me. And that's kind of like how a fine artist thinks, I think. Which I don't even have the capability of knowing how fine artists think either, because I wasn't really able to be in a fine art department. But they put meaning to everything. And I don't put meaning to everything, really. So I guess maybe fine art wasn't where I belonged, but, you know, I create the images that I want to create. I get inspired by certain things. A lot of fashion type stuff, a lot of models I get inspired by, a lot of real life people. I really love doing portraiture, and I also really like doing character design. So I don't know, those kind of things inspire me. But nothing really has a super fucking deep meaning. I'm just not that kind of artist. So it was kind of awkward, you know, to try to answer that question and be, like, honest. Because I think I said something along the lines of, like, ugly people don't interest me, because I was a bitch at the time and didn't really know how to respond to people during critique very well. That's another story for another day. I probably should do an entire podcast about critique in general. Maybe I'll record that after this, because I do have some fucking things to say. I watched a video recently that pissed me off, that had to do with critique. So maybe I'll vent about that after this. Just some word of advice. If you're going into college, try to go into it with a relatively open mind, but stay true to yourself. You know what you want. And if you don't know what you want, then good. You're a clean slate. You can go in with no preconceived notions of what it's going to be like. You can go in without being disappointed by things not being how you expect it to be, or, you know, just go in it as an experience in life. Because at the end of the day, you'll be able to count the things that you remember learning on one fucking hand. Really, honestly. I don't remember any of my art history. I don't remember fucking anything, really, that I was taught. I don't remember any famous artists. I think I remember them more than I think I do, because sometimes I'll see a painting and I'll be like, hey, that's Rembrandt. And I'll be like, how the fuck did I know that? Oh, maybe because I had to memorize it for art history and thought I forgot, but I didn't. Whatever, you know, that kind of shit happens. But experience-wise, though, you will change as a person. You will go through so many changes, it's not even funny. You'll go into college one person and you'll come out of college a completely different person. Not completely. A different person enough. Based on all of the experiences that you have and all the things that you learn and all the people that you meet, and you'll leave with friendships that will last for the rest of your life, hopefully. Try to make friends. If you're someone who's not good at making friends, all you have to do to make friends, I swear to God, is just be a nice person. Like, just be kind to people. Just give people a little smile, a little nod. Maybe strike up a convo if you get a minute. Ask people a question. Sometimes all it takes is just shooting the shit for a couple seconds, and all of a sudden you're over at their room having, some rum and coke and, shooting the shit for 7 hours, and all of a sudden they're your friend, and you have them forever. That's all it takes. Just do the little things that it takes to interact with another person, and that's probably going to get you friends. That's all I gotta say. If you find yourself surrounded by fucking assholes, try removing yourself from that situation and try something different. There's got to be someone out there in that college who you can be friendly with. You just have to, locate them. Like when I started out in my dorm on that, 4th floor, I didn't really get along with any of the people on that 4th floor. Thankfully, I got the chance to move floors, and I ended up being on a floor with more people I, liked better. And when I got to my classes and I started meeting more like-minded, illustrator type people or whatever, I became friends with every single person in my department. I graduated from my department with probably 10 people altogether, so we got super close. We spent the last 2 years together every day, basically. Closer with some of them than others, but for the most part, everyone was friendly with each other, which kind of made critiques hard. But also better, I think. I think it's good to get critiques from friends more so than from strangers. But we tend to pat each other on the back a little more than we should have. But anyway, I've gone on way, way long enough. I might clip some parts out of this, so you might not get the full experience that I just experienced myself. But thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. I know that these are long and rambly, but I hope that you get something out of it. If you're going to college this fall, I wish you luck. I think it's going to be good. It was good. I have a lot of critiques of my college experience, and I have a lot of frustrations, even to this day, 5 years later. I think I had said at the beginning that I went to school in 2013, but that's when I graduated. I went to school in 2009. I'll have to edit that. 2009, not 2013. Good luck. Just study hard. Don't stay up too late. I know you're going to do it anyway, but try to get sleep. Try not to do too many 2-hour sleep nights in a row if you can. Find out how many classes you can skip in a semester and skip exactly that many strategically. So if you need time, if you need time for another class, but you have a day you can take off of that class, you can skip that class and do the work for the other class. And you can make ends meet that way. Our school's policy was you could miss 3 classes a semester, and then you would get, I think, a number or a letter grade taken off or something like that for each day after that. So it was a pretty strict policy. Find out what your school's policy is and use it and abuse it as much as you need to. Because there wasn't a semester that went by that I didn't use all 3 classes that I could miss strategically so that I didn't fail other classes. Or, die because I hadn't slept for a day and a half. But yeah, be smart about it. Don't do stupid shit. Stay out of parties. You can go to them, but they're so fucking dangerous, it's not even funny. So if you go, just all of the things to do to not get your shit fucked. So just be careful and get to know people before you go to a party. Don't go to a party first week of college. Just get to know people first and hang out, together in public settings first, and then go to a party if you absolutely feel you need to do a party. I didn't party. I'm not a party person. I'm not that fun. I like to intimately sit in people's rooms and talk to them over tea or, whiskey or whatever they want to drink, and break the rules that way. But yeah, that's pretty much all that I really need to say right now. If anyone has any questions, I can answer them in the comment section. Or you can send me messages on my Tumblr, which is neulinu, or the Discord. So do that if you need to. And thanks so much for listening. I gotta take a little break, and then I'll probably rant about critique. All right, have a great one, everyone. Bye.